Our first speaker after the refreshment break is, many of you I'm sure will be familiar with Amber Ward.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. I have the unenviable task of starting right after the break. So I'm just gonna start talking. I've only still got 15 minutes and 5 minutes for questions, so everybody else can just lump it if they don't get to hear the good stuff, right? All right, so I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are an MDA ALS clinic, and I'm doing about half-time power wheelchair management, and I'm also an occupational therapist. And so I don't feel like I know a whole bunch about this topic, and so I wanted to see if anybody else didn't know much about this topic either. So this is a little bit of the plan, sort of the objectives. We're gonna go through, hopefully, all these things in 15 minutes. We shall see. And I have a slide for each one of them, so don't worry about getting that bit. What I did want to show is on the bottom right is a way that a gentleman is driving with just his knees. They're just moving laterally, and there's a sensor on either side of each knee. And so he's able to go left and right with one knee and forward and reverse with the other knee. And so I think a lot of people perceive that folks with ALS have to go from their hand to their head to nothing. And so I'm hoping today's talk will also show that there are many, many other ways to access power wheelchairs. The gentleman in the top right is one of our clients who is using his head. He preferred that. He has a relatively strong neck, and so he was able to go to that with quite weak arms. So power wheelchairs. A lot of where my talk is coming from is, of course, the US. I work in the US. And so what I want to show you is what is possible. I'm sure there are some countries where these things are not yet available, and some countries where you are 1,000 miles ahead of us. And so this is obviously my bias and my perspective. And so I just wanted to do a little education. If you're feeling completely crazy overwhelmed as I'm talking, the power chair will hang around in the back a little bit with actually the Permobil representative, Melissa, which will be very helpful for answering lots of questions. And so to be able to do cool things with your power wheelchair, there needs to be some sort of expanded control. You can't just have sort of a little seat and a joystick moving around town. It has to be something that has some flexibility, that allows you to change your position, that allows you to drive whatever body part happens to be strong enough. And so it used to be that the joysticks had lots and lots of good features, but if you wanted to control anything in your environment, you had to buy an additional package or an additional feature or something like that. These days, actually probably within the last year and a bit, a number of the wheelchair manufacturers here in the US, and many of them are also international vendors, are integrating Bluetooth and infrared into the joysticks, some of them. Some of them have infrared in the joystick, and then the Bluetooth is done with an expanded controller like you might see in the bottom right. That's the little screen that shows up when you're using an alternative control, something besides your hand, to be able to sort of tell you what you're doing, that kind of thing. And so when you start to think in your own life with your own smartphones, when you start getting into the thinking about Bluetooth and all the things that are possible with Bluetooth, I think you're going to get a sense of the direction that my talk is going to be going. And so what is nice about Bluetooth and infrared and whatever is however the client controls the chair is how these things will be controlled. So if the client is using a single switch, if the client is driving with his knees or his foot or his head or his chin or whatever, that is how these things via Bluetooth and infrared and whatnot are controlled. So certainly if someone is using a chair that has a joystick, that is called proportional. What that means is that you push it a little bit and you go slowly. You push it a lot and you go faster. You also point that joystick in the direction that you want to go. Switch access means that you hit the switch and something occurs, okay? So perhaps that switch is set up to move forward. So perhaps you have your hand on the switch, and while your hand is on the switch, you move forward, you take your hand off the switch, and it stops. So switch is sort of momentary, most of them. There's many, many, many different kinds, and we don't need to get into all those details, but basically, the switch is sort of a momentary thing. You press it, something happens. Proportional means that you're able to veer, you're able to steer, you're able to go a little bit slow and a lot fast, and moving in all directions, and of course, that is an easier way to control. But a lot of our folks lose that proportional control, And so they do go to things like switches. The woman in the picture in the top right, excuse me, the only right, is actually using 2 fiber optic switches. And what that is a little beam of light that is going through that wire. And when her thumb crosses the beam of light, something happens. Okay? For her, the left switch is left, the right switch is right, and when she covers both of them with her thumb, she goes straight. So also, she has another switch at another place that she can get into her power features, and then these 2 switches allow her to tilt back and change her position and put her feet up and do all these things with a teensy-weensy bit of thumb motion. And so that is a switch access. When she hits the left one, she goes left. When she breaks the beam of the right one, she goes right. It's different than a joystick, but obviously still quite functional. So Bluetooth. If you think about your smartphones, I am quite sure every smartphone in this room has Bluetooth in it. Many computers. If your computer is a little bit older and it does not have Bluetooth, you can get a little thing that fits in the USB port that makes it Bluetooth enabled. Most tablets, certainly all iPads, everything is Bluetooth enabled. And so what's cool about the chair is if the chair is connected via Bluetooth, if I'm moving the joystick, it can be a lot of things. And we're going to get into some of that in a minute. What I wanted to do was to show you this little bit of a video. A little details about the video. I was not present for the taking of these videos. If anybody in this country or other countries has seen the Blair Witch Project, close your eyes if you get dizzy. There's a little bit of that going on. So I have no control over these videos except to edit them as much as possible. So
Module, you're going to have
no sound,
3
please.
things built into it.
Thank you.
Mouse mod.
All right, so what this is showing is a joystick, and to be able to get into doing certain things, that you can press one button and have choices between Bluetooth, between infrared. You can set up little buttons and switches to do all sorts of different things. So it's pretty much however the person controls the chair, they are getting into these menus, which then lead to choices. So in this particular video, they're doing some TV control. I'll show you another one where they actually have the TV in the background, where that you can see. You can set up a number of different devices. So if I had my iPhone and my tablet and my computer and my laptop, it's all the, a number of different things can be set up via Bluetooth. And so it really is a powerful, powerful thing. In a minute, I believe this one shows him using the joystick as a mouse. If you check that tablet screen, can you see the mouse moving around? And so we can set up how the person left and right and double clicks in any way we want to. But just a super quick example of you move the joystick, it becomes a mouse on whatever device you're using. And just think about the folks that have to have their mouse in the super duper special spot with exactly the right amount of pillows and foam to get exactly the right amount of move, and they get tired so fast. But if they're controlling the chair with their head or their foot or their toe or whatever, perhaps that energy expenditure wouldn't be so great. All right, so infrared. Same idea. This does control, in many countries, TV, DVD, CD sorts of players. It's starting to happen in the US where some cable companies, certain cable boxes are no longer infrared. They are actually radio frequency. But for the most part, many TVs will still accept infrared. And so the chair acts like a big old universal remote. You just sort of sync them together as you would if you were training a new remote, and off you go. So it allows the chair to be able to do some of those things. And I actually have a client who is super excited to be able to change the channel on his family without them knowing what was going on. Like, what happened? Why is the channel? So, a little humor out of the whole thing as well. So let me show you a little bit of this. Hopefully, yes, good, no sound. So basically what we're doing is a couple of just quick hits. And it's going to be a little tricky to tell, but basically he's doing some channel changing. And you can set these things up in sort of any way you like, which is the power of this. If you can only hit a little switch with the side of your head, that could be the channel change, or that can kind of get you down all your different things. So there's really a lot of flexibility. So when we think about tablets and smartphones, I don't know if most of you realize, and I hope you do, that pretty much any smartphone on the earth, Android, iPhone, whatever other sort of options, allows you to do some switch control. And so we're going to show you in a minute how that works. But basically, under the general category, I have an iPhone, so under the general accessibility, I can get in and sort of assign switches to do something. So I can make a certain push with the joystick handle be move forward an icon, or back an icon, or tap to select that item. So there's a lot of things that can be done. And so let me show you this video really fast. This one is using an app called Wemo, W-E-M-O. And what they're going to be doing with this one is being able to use the tablet controlled by the chair to turn on and off that aquarium light over there. And you can, it's just an aquarium light, but certainly think about all the things that have power in somebody's home that really just need an on or an off, because many of the things can be sort of preset to be doing what the person needs. And so I was a little bit afraid to turn my cell phone off of silent, thinking I might get a phone call. But I'm going to have somebody give me a call and see how that works. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Doing well. How's your presentation going?
All right. So it was just a couple hits. I know it's kind of awkward, but to show you the basic idea, I don't have to do much. I certainly don't have to get into much to be able to make those things happen. What we ended up doing was, just to make it quick for this demonstration, we made the horn get into that, the Bluetooth, they're already connected, but to get into that correct screen, and then I held the horn a little bit louder, and it picked the icon that I was on, which was answer. So really super duper easy. If someone doesn't have the strength for the horn, you can do something else. There's just a lot of possibilities. You can make calls, you can answer calls, you can do a lot of things like that. For the communication device, many of them are beginning to have more options for control, including using the wheelchair to control the communication device, generally via Bluetooth. In a number of years ago, there were not that many that actually had Bluetooth, but that is becoming more and more common to be able to use that. I did have to call tech support to kind of help me get the Bluetooth kind of synced in a little bit. And then we were having some trouble with the chair recognizing it. It's a little bit of a mess at this particular moment, but it is possible. So have folks who use a communication device who are getting down to maybe only a site or two that have to control everything. If they can control the chair, that then controls their phone and the communication device and their positioning and everything else, which is those same few switch sites, you've got a lot more ability to do the things you need to do. Home automation, I don't want to get too far into this because Sarah will be talking a little bit about this later. But if you think about just sort of the general public is really into the Amazon Echo in this country, I mean really, and there's a lot of others cropping up, Google Home and whatnot, and a lot of apps that will help you control these sorts of things. And so there are many ways to access those. There are some apps where you basically just hit it on your phone, like the top right. Let's say you're a client who is home alone. You don't necessarily have to sit at home with the door unlocked the entire day waiting for your caregiver, or in case of an emergency to let the fire department in. You can hit your smartphone to be able to unlock that door, okay? There are some technology programs in the US and many other countries to be able to help people figure out this technology. A lot of the wheelchair folks are just, quite honestly, a little bit nervous about it. And so getting some folks that do technology all day might be your best bet to kind of helping to integrate all of this. The mouse, as we talked about showing the picture before, just wanted to kind of have it on this PowerPoint, and these are certainly available. You can certainly take pictures as you go. But there are many ways that people can do the mouse. The top right is somebody actually using a reflective dot on his forehead called a head mouse with a little camera on his iPad. That is an awesome way to control the computer. However, if the gentleman happens to use a power chair, it may be even easier to just have however he controls the chair, control the device. Who knows? Everybody is different. At least you know there are options. There are a lot of ways to charge the chair. This top left is actually available on Amazon. It's a little USB charging port. It goes into where the chairs charge at the end of the joystick, and the picture is actually of someone with their phone plugged in. The bottom bit is an attachment that goes into the giant chair batteries that allows them to be used to control, to give power to a ventilator, to a Trilogy, to a BiPAP, to whatever, okay? What it does is it helps to allow those batteries to be used simultaneously, so it's safe for the chair. You have many, many, many more hours of being able to be out of the house to be able to do those kinds of things. I'm so close to out of time right now. Okay, ventilator issues, hang the vent. Get people out of their house, okay? Don't get those giant trays. It's just not worth it. If you can possibly do it, hang it. The sip and puff, the gentleman in the picture and the picture down below, we have a lot of folks that will not tilt and recline for pressure relief because they cannot breathe. They are not ready to use their ventilator or Trilogy or BiPAP all through the day, so they do not do pressure relief. They can't breathe. So the sip and puff is a nice option. They lean over and get a little slurp, a little push of air as they need to. And I'm going to get pulled off the stage. Virtual seating coach, we may have to talk about another day. 5 seconds of telling what it is. It's a device that attaches onto a Permobil that allows you to track what the chair is doing. So the client says they're tilting once an hour, and you can say, wow, look at that, your tilt has never been used this month. Those sorts of things. I can also push alerts through the smartphone via a free app that tells them when and how to do those things. All right, so let's get out of these videos, to my page of contact if anyone wants to take a picture. I'm definitely going to get pulled off the stage.
Thanks, Amber. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So I think we may be time just for one question. So have we got a question anywhere in the audience at all?
Or so many you don't know what to say.
No? Okay, so join me again thanking Amber for that presentation.
Thank you.
Wonderful.